think any artistic endeavor, whether it's painting graffiti on walls or building Stonehenge or painting the Last Supper or writing a song or a poem, is really, yeah, it's about death. It's about life, you know. The two are intertwined. It's about making some statement before you go, making your mark, you know. We have all of these strategies, and it's important for all of us to express ourselves as human beings. We're here for a purpose. My purpose is to write songs, and other people's purpose is something else. I had a very curious dream, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, where I looked under my shirt and there was an enormous wound in my chest, this great big stab wound in my chest, and there was a flower growing from this wound, you know. And my mother was in the dream. She came into the room, but she had a sword in her hand, and in the dream, she was the one who wounded me, you know. So I woke up, you know, in a sweat, and trying to figure out what this one's about, you know. But I decided to write the images down in a song and hopefully try and make some sense of them. I still haven't, really. I don't want to get into whatever it meant in my deep psychology, but it was such a powerful, vivid set of images that I felt it had to mean something. It had to have some resonance somewhere. But a lot of people have responded to those images. My nearest experience of death really has been the death of my parents. They weren't terribly old when they died. And spending time with them before they went was important. I remember sitting with my father and holding his hand, you know, and we had identical hands. And I said, look, I've never noticed this before, but we have the same hands. And he told me, well, you've made better use of your hands than me. And I realized that was the first compliment he'd really paid me. And there was a lot of stuff between us that was kind of resolved in that little statement there. I mean, there is a long tradition of songs about death, from the mawkish to the sacred. And we have a whole pantheon of rock stars who have died in their prime, you know, who all more or less subscribe to this kind of myth of the dying artist, you know, the dying hero. There's a sort of romantic element to, you know, the sort of Death of Chatterton kind of romance about a young death, or the James Dean idea, or the Kurt Cobain idea. This is something I've never subscribed to. I don't want to belong to that clique. I like to live. I want to be an old man when I die, not young and beautiful. You can't really live a full life unless you deal with the idea that it has an end. And you know, having 5 children, I have to lead them through this idea that, you know, life is wonderful, but there's an end to it. And we have a lot of animals at the house, you know. Occasionally one of them will die, you know. And the little one will say to me, well, will I die? So, well, yes. And then you have to get into this whole idea. We don't really have any established way of doing that. We don't have rituals that really deal with it satisfactorily anyway, in my opinion. A lot of people think Fragile is some sort of ecological hymn to the fragile earth, but it's not. The song was written about a man called Ben Linda, who was an American Peace Corps worker in Nicaragua, who was shot by the Contras. I thought that was a wonderful irony that this young idealistic American was shot by a US-funded organization of basic gangsters, you know. And I basically wrote about that irony and that sadness. Nothing Like the Sun didn't start out to be an album about anything. I came up with this bunch of songs, maybe 10 or 12 songs. And it was only later that I realized that a lot of the songs were about women, but not just women as romantic objects, women as advisors, women as companions, as mothers, sisters. Very therapeutic record for me to make. I mean, my mother had just died, so I suppose I was obsessed by the idea of, you know, the female, and how was I going to replace her, you know. I feel very strongly that we all need to rehearse death in a way, so that, you know, it's one of the most natural things that one can do. Being born and dying are very natural things. So why not try and rehearse it? Why not try and practice it almost? I think, you know, the old religions did that. The Sufis did that. They practiced dying. So you could die well. You could die courageously or without fear. I think to fear death is to fear life, really. I'm not saying I've cracked this one yet, you know, I still worry when I get in an airplane. I'd like to believe in reincarnation. I'd like to subscribe in the idea that we can karmically come back as something better, something more evolved, in a world that's more evolved. But culturally and intellectually, I find it difficult to accept. You know, I look at my children and I see myself reincarnated in them, and I'd hope to see my grandchildren have the same blueprint, you know. My philosophy is one might as well live as if reincarnation is true. It's a nice idea.